See, in the earlier session, we have focused more on the death benefits that are typically paid at the end of the year of death, whether it is whole life or term life or endowment assurance or critical illness, any of these, or even the deferred benefits, any of them, what we have seen is the benefit was paid at the end of the year of death. But in reality, it may not be the case that the beneficiary may have to wait until the end of the year of death. Probably it may take a few days for the settlement to happen because some kind of verifications have to be there, some kind of checks could be there. So after that, there could be a settlement within few days. So rather than making an assumption of the benefit being paid almost at the end of the year of death, probably making an assumption that the benefit would be paid immediately on death is much more appropriate rather than waiting until the end of the year. So even from an approximation standpoint, this approximation looks like a more prudent kind of an approximation compared to the end of the year kind of a death. So what we will do is we will try to see all these different kinds of policies again. If at all the benefit is paid immediately on death, how would the present values change? How would the typical expected present value is going to change, and how are the variances going to change in each of the cases, right? So going with the whole life insurance to start with, where we are talking about a sum assured of 1 that is payable for a life who is currently aged X immediately on death. So here we talk about, instead of talking about KX, which is the curtailed lifetime, we will talk about the exact lifetime, which is TX. And we talk about the present value of the benefit being V power Tx rather than V power Kx plus 1. So that's one difference that we bring in. And when we are talking about the typical way to find out the expected value of V power Tx, now this being a continuous variable rather than a discrete, instead of summation, I am doing an integration. Now what is the probability that a person aged X will die between X plus T and X plus T plus 1? It's as good as a person aged X is alive for T years, and the moment he has been alive for T, by the time he got X plus T, he has died during that period. So this is the probability. And what is the present value of the payment? V power Tx. Now this has to be integrated, or V power T, this has to be integrated over 0 to infinite. And notation wise, whatever we initially we have denoted for a whole life policy, where the payment is done at the end of the year of death, we have denoted it as AX. Whereas in case of continuous case, wherein we are looking at immediate payments, we will represent it with a bar. That's the only difference. Which means even if I have to compute the variance of V power Tx, we will call it as 2a bar x minus a bar x whole square. So that is the typical way we again when I am talking about a bar x, or when I am talking about a 2 in front of it, it's as good as I have computed the expected present value by taking the interest rate as 1 plus I whole squared minus 1, right? And here the only difference between the payment at the end of the year versus a continuous payment immediate, is a bar on the top of the symbol for expected death benefit as well as in the computation of the variances, right? Now, the same way we can very quickly move around in terms of understanding for the term life assurance policies also, wherein we could see that the present value is v power tx if the tx is less than n, and it would be 0 if I see that the exact lifetime is greater than n, if the death happens after n periods. So based on this, I can find out the expected present value, which comes out as instead of integrating between 0 to infinite, I'll do the integration between 0 to n. Again the same logic, tpx, the person being alive up to age x plus t, and dying by the time he achieves the age x plus t. And at this point, the present value of the payment is v power t. So this is integrating it over 0 to n will give me the expected present value. And in a normal case, we said that this is axn with a line over it. But in case of immediate payment, we just denote it with a bar on the top of it. Which means even when I'm talking about the variance 2axn, I'm just putting a bar on it, minus ax colon n, I'm taking it as a squared on the top of it. So that is how I'm computing the variance in this case, right? Then the same logic, if I'm going with the endowment assurance, payments wise, yes, it is v power tx if the tx is less than n, and it is if the tx is greater than n, there is a payment that is happening, which is v power n. Now the same logic again, if I am going with the expected present value of this, I am integrating it between 0 to n, wherein I am looking at tpx mu x plus t. This is the probability that the life dies immediately after attaining mu x plus t, and the typical present value is v power t. So this is one part which is associated with the term assurance. And then between n to infinite, yes, he is going to be paid, I mean whatever is the probability that tx is greater than n, right? This I can take it as the probability that tx is greater than n multiplied by v power n, because in all these cases it's the same v power n that is getting paid. So this is as good as saying, in this case I can write it as v power n times npx. The probability that the person is alive for n more years, and based on that, whatever is the payment that is coming at the end of n years, the present value of that coming out to v power n. Again, the notation wise, this entire thing is coming out as ax comma x colon n, and this is the expected present value. Similarly, I can find the variance of this present value also as 2a bar x colon n minus a bar x colon n whole square. So this part is still for an endowment assurance. Now this is where probably what I would like to see is some important relationships here. Okay, let's try out some important relationships. If I am looking at AX, right, which is for a whole life, all I am saying is look at it with respect to a term life, which is maturing, the present value of the term life, which is in which the death should occur within n years, and we are also talking about the deferred whole life kind, provided that the person is dying after n periods. So this is like the death happening within the first n periods, which is the term life, the death happening after the first n periods, which is the deferred life kind of a benefit. So the summation of these two is equal to the expected present value associated with the whole life. One important relationship. Then, if I look at it with respect to endowment assurance, whatever is the present expected present value with respect to endowment assurance kind of a policy, all we are saying this is again equivalent to a term life present value, expected present value of the term life along with the expected present value of the pure endowment kind of a policy. So this is purely equivalent to the endowment assurance kind of a present value, expected present value of an endowment assurance. Then the deferred, when I am looking at the deferred, all I am looking at is the overall, the expected present value of the expected present value of the whole life minus the expected present value of the corresponding term life, which is in a way, okay, the probability that a person is alive for n periods, right, and by the time he attains age x plus n, so the present value of ax plus n, and so now I have to find out the present value as of today, so I am trying to multiply it with v power n. So this is coming out to be the value associated with n pipe ax bar, right? And survival benefits, they are not affected by the change in the time of payment, right? Whether we are here, I really don't need to put any a bar on the top of it because the payment is happening purely at the end of the period, right? In case of survival, so for survivals I generally don't put any kind of a bar, right? For survival benefits we don't put any kind of a bar. Only for the death related benefits, the timing of the payment, because the whether the payment is paid immediately on the death or at the end of the year of death is purely applicable to death payment. The survival based payments are made in case the person is surviving at the end of the period itself, right? And a few more interesting relationships here, right? Especially when I want to refer to the tabular related values. In the actuarial tables, we have the values for AX, we have the values for AXN. So if I really have to express AX bar or typically AX colon N comma bar, so these things, if I really want to look at it with respect to tabular kind of a values, that is where we make some kind of approximations. One approximation we go with is AX bar, I'll simply take it as 1 plus I to the power half times AX. And even in the expansion of this can become 1 plus I by 2 times AX. Any of these two approximations can directly come into picture because this is where we bring in the concept of the claims acceleration kind of a mechanism. See, if I am looking at the deaths occurring between x plus k years and x plus k plus 1 years, I am simply looking at on an average they occur somewhere in the middle, x plus k plus half kind of years. Means the claims are paid on an average 6 months before the end of the year of death. Because of that reason, the present values I am accelerating it by half a year, resulting in 1 plus I to the power half times AX, or just as a simplification, it can even come out as 1 plus I by 2 times AX, right? So probably when we are using it even in the context of AX comma N, X colon N bar, even there I will do the same, 1 plus I to the power half times the typical AX colon N, assuming the payment is happening at the end of the period. Even in case of or probably for an endowment assurance also, wherever the death benefit is there, I'll do it the same. 1 plus I to the power half a x colon n for the death benefit, right? I'll take ax colon n for the death benefit and ax colon n for the maturity benefit. This I will not put 1 plus I to the power half, because this would be paid only at the end of the year of death. So that's one more important relationship that we need to be comfortable with. And one more approximation that we talk of is by taking delta, which is log 1 plus I. Right? I can talk about delta, which is log 1 plus I, in case I am assuming that the deaths are uniformly distributed between the integer ages. Between x plus k and x plus k plus 1, I can very well go with an approximation that ax bar, I can very well note it as I by delta times ax. Similarly, I can look at ax bar, x comma n, x colon n bar. I can very well write it as I by delta times ax colon n. So this is one more important approximation, because what we typically see is when I am trying to integrate v power t over 0 to 1, all I am going to get is I by delta times v. So because of this reason, wherever I had that v, I can replace it by I by delta times that. So any of these approximations can quite comfortably be used. If at all I am talking about the claim acceleration mechanism, it's better that I put the relation 1 plus I to the power of half times ax is ax bar. And when I am looking at the deaths are uniformly distributed between the integer ages, in that case I can take ax bar is nothing but I by delta times ax. Small differences could come out, but the differences are not that significantly observed. So all these things can quite comfortably be looked at and evaluated, and probably the numericals that are more associated to this can very well be planned out and attempted. All right.